I've got bad news. You are probably working harder today than you were 3 years ago, but your bank account looks exactly the same. Actually, if we account for the purchasing power of the dollar, it probably looks worse. Welcome back. Let's talk about the invisible treadmill. You know the feeling. You get the paycheck, you feel that momentary hit of dopamine, you pay the rent, the car note, the student loans, and that subscription service you forgot to cancel. And suddenly, 48 hours later, you're back at zero. You're waiting for the next refill. This is what I call the liquidity trap. And in 2024, the walls of that trap got taller. See, the old rules, the ones your parents told you about in 2010 or even 2019, they're dead. They didn't just die, they were murdered by 7% mortgage rates and the cost of a dozen eggs. Back then, saving money was about buying a house or planning a vacation. Today, saving money is about survival. I crunched the numbers so you don't have to. The data is terrifying. Nearly 60% of people can't cover $1,000 emergency. One blown tire, one ER visit, one unexpected layoff, and they fall off the treadmill entirely. But there is a specific number, a mathematical threshold where the physics of your life change. It's not $1 million. It's not even $100,000. It's $15,000. Today, we are going to break down exactly why $15,000 is the most important financial milestone of your life, why the system is designed to stop you from reaching it, and the psychological shift that happens the moment you cross that line. Buckle up, we're doing a deep dive. First, we need to shatter a very expensive illusion. I need you to stop looking at Instagram. Stop looking at your neighbor's leased BMW. We have this misconception that high income equals wealth. It does not. In the finance world, we have an acronym for a specific type of person. Henry, high earner, not rich yet. I know guys making $250,000 a year who are poorer than a guy making $50,000. How is that possible? Because the guy making $250K has a $4,000 mortgage, 2 car payments, private school tuition, and an ego that requires $300 dinners to sustain. His burn rate is 100%. If he loses his job on Tuesday, he is destitute by Friday. That isn't wealth, that is high-performance poverty. Here is the uncomfortable truth. The economy loves a Henry. The entire consumer machine is built to extract money from high earners. It convinces you that because you make money, you deserve to spend money. Treat yourself, right? That is the trap. The goalposts have moved. Making 6 figures isn't the safety net it used to be. Inflation acts as a silent tax on your lifestyle. If you are making $100K today, it feels like $70K did 5 years ago. So if you are sitting there thinking, I'll save when I make more money, I promise you, you won't. Parkinson's law dictates that expenses always rise to meet income unless you intervene. Real wealth isn't the ability to buy things. Real wealth is the ability to withstand a shock. And without that $15,000 buffer, you are walking through a minefield wearing a blindfold. You aren't building a future. You are just managing a very expensive present. Let's look at the data. I've broken the population down into 3 financial tiers based on liquidity. I want you to honestly locate yourself on this pyramid. Tier 3 is the danger zone. This is roughly 50 to 60% of the population. Here, life is expensive. Why? Because being poor is expensive. If your car breaks down and you have $0 saved, you put it on a credit card. Repair cost, $1,000. Interest rate, 24%. Real cost over time, $1,500 plus. You are paying a premium just to exist. You can't buy in bulk because you lack the upfront cash. You pay late fees. You are constantly reactive. The system feeds on Tier 3. Tier 2 is the buffer. This is where you have between $1,000 and $10,000. This is where you stop drowning, but you're still treading water. You can handle a flat tire, maybe a vet bill, but a job loss, a recession, you're wiped out in 6 weeks. You sleep a little better, but you're still checking your banking app every day with mild anxiety. Tier 1 is the fortress. This is the $15,000 mark. Why $15,000? I didn't pick this number out of a hat. For the average individual, monthly survival expenses, rent, food, utilities, hover around $3,000 to $5,000 depending on your city. $15,000 is roughly 3 to 5 months of runway. Here is where the math gets weird. When you hit that $15,000 number, the gravity of debt reverses. Instead of paying 24% interest to a bank, the bank starts paying you. Put that $15,000 in a high-yield savings account at 5%. That's $750 a year in free money. That's not a lot, you say. You're missing the point. It's not about the $750. It's about the $3,000 in credit card interest you didn't pay because you had the cash to cover the emergency. The difference between Tier 3 and Tier 1 isn't just money. It's the difference between a crisis and an inconvenience. When you have $15,000, a layoff isn't a funeral for your career. It's a paid vacation to find a better job. The data shows that people with 3+ months of emergency savings are statistically more likely to increase their income year over year. Why? Because they don't have to take the first desperate job offer that comes along. They have the leverage to negotiate. Leverage equals wealth. Now, let's talk about the stuff that doesn't show up on an Excel spreadsheet. Let's talk about your brain. There is a biological cost to having zero savings. It's called cortisol. When you're living paycheck to paycheck, your amygdala, the lizard part of your brain responsible for fight or flight, is constantly activated. You're operating in survival mode. When you're in survival mode, your IQ literally drops. You make short-term decisions. You buy the fast food because you're too stressed to cook. You skip the dentist because you're scared of the bill, which leads to a root canal that costs 10 times more later. But when you hit that $15,000 number, the noise stops. The top 10% sleep like babies. Not because they have a better mattress, but because they have a fortress of solitude. I call this passive confidence. You walk into work differently when you know you don't need the paycheck this Friday to survive. You're not desperate. And ironically, your boss can smell that. People who aren't desperate get promoted. People who aren't desperate get respect. When you have $15,000 in the bank, you stop being a servant to your bills and start being the CEO of your life. You stop asking, can I afford this? And start asking, do I value this? It's the power of no. No, I won't work overtime this weekend. No, I won't tolerate a toxic relationship because I can't afford to move out. No, I won't buy that garbage just to impress people I don't like. Money buys things, sure, but savings buys autonomy.
Here's the twist. The secret that the investment bankers and the financial gurus won't tell you. They want you to believe the goal is the Lamborghini. They want you to chase the millions. But the most life-changing money you will ever make is the first $15,000. Why? Because getting from $0 to $15,000 requires you to fundamentally change who you are. You have to kill your old self. You have to execute the financial ego death. To save the first 15K, you have to master delayed gratification. You have to learn to track your inflows and outflows. You have to become disciplined. Once you build the machine that generates $15,000, that same machine will generate the next $100,000. The math gets easier. The first 15K is pushing a boulder up a mountain. The next 15K is watching it roll down the other side. Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's right-hand man, famously said, "The first $100,000 is a bitch, but you gotta do it." Adjusted for inflation and targeting a younger demographic, that $15,000 is your first hurdle. If you can't manage $1,000, you can't manage $10,000. And if you can't manage $10,000, the lottery won't save you. You'd just be a broke person with a temporary pile of cash. The twist is this: the money doesn't make you rich. The habits required to keep the money make you rich. I'm not going to leave you with just philosophy. You need a tactical plan to get to $15,000. I've broken this down into 3 steps depending on where you are. Step 1 is the audit. Print out your last 3 months of bank statements. Highlight everything that wasn't necessary for survival. You will be nauseous. Good. Use that nausea. If you are at $0, you are in a crisis. Act like it. Go on a spending fast for 30 days. No eating out, no entertainment, nothing. Reset your dopamine baseline. Step 2 is segregation. Most people fail because their savings is in the same bank as their checking. They see the money, so they spend it. Open a high-yield savings account at a different bank. Do not get a debit card for it. Make it annoying to access. Set up an auto transfer the day you get paid, even if it's $50. Treat your savings like a tax the government takes before you even see it. Step 3 is the fake bill method. Once you hit $5,000 saved, increase the pressure. Create a fake bill for $500 a month. Label it Future Freedom in your budget. You pay this bill before you pay your landlord. If you can't afford it, you find a side hustle or sell things until you can. Force the scarcity. Look, the system wants you broke. A broke employee is an obedient employee. A broke consumer is a loyal consumer. Rebelling against that is the hardest thing you will do. But that moment when you open your banking app and see $15,000 sitting there, unbothered, collecting interest, that is the first breath of fresh air you've taken in years. I want to hear from you. What is the one dumb expense you need to cut today to start this journey? Or, if you're already there, how did your sleep change when you hit your number? Let me know in the comments. I read them all. And remember, income is vanity. Profit is sanity. Cash is king. I'll see you in the next one.